Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode here of AP World History in 516. Today we're going to continue on with our AP review sessions, and now we are looking at section 2.2, and 2.2 is titled The Mongol Empire and the Making of the Modern World. Now, before we even begin, I think that on the AP test come May, there are some things that are just so important and so necessary to understand because the chances of them making it onto the AP test in some sort of meaningful way is so high. And this is one of the first ones that I think that this applies to. That's the Mongol Empire. So I'm going to be spending a little bit more time on this section in particular, just because, again, I think it's incredibly important. So let's go on. All right, so let's take a look at this image right here. Based on what you know about the location of the Mongols and the image provided, why would the Mongols be interested in the Silk Road? So before we even get started, we're going to know that the Mongols are located to the north of China right here in the Gobi Desert. So they're nomadic, they are skilled horsemen who use bows and arrows, etc. And when you see that they've got the Great Wall of China that is being developed here. And the reason why the Great Wall of China is even being built is because of the Mongols themselves. Now, the big thing here is, how does their location impact this? Well, I think it really comes down to, if they control the Silk Road, they control the main ways that you can make money. And whenever you're trying to expand an empire, you need a lot of it. Now, looking at the rule of Genghis Khan and the introduction of the Mongol Empire itself. In bold here, you have this term Temujin. Temujin is another word for who will become Genghis Khan. This is his official name. He comes to power, creating a Khan, or oftentimes it's called a Khanate. This is just another way of referring to an area of land controlled by a particular group of people. In this case, this happens to be the Mongols. All right. So Temujin comes to power through a meeting called a Kurulti, and based on this meeting, he becomes the leader of the Mongol kingdom, and he starts rapidly expanding. Now, the reason why the Mongols expand so rapidly is two things. First off, they are very skilled horsemen. All right. Instead of traveling in large packs where they're marching to different areas and then battling, they simply ride horses. They reach their destinations faster, and they are much more rested in preparation for battle than other soldiers who have to march. Now, the second thing, and this is kind of a compounding benefit to the Mongols, is the use of the short bow. Instead of working with kind of close hand-to-hand combat, Mongols use short-range weaponry like the short bow while on a horse to make most of their attacks. They're not only super mobile, but it also allows for some defensive capabilities, because it's more difficult to attack someone who's not only moving, but is moving away from you or is at a distance. It's hard to attack somebody with a sword if they're 20 or 30 feet away. All right. So as a result of these two developments and these two advantages, this is where we can take a look at this map right here. So the growth of the Mongol Empire, and you can see here everything in blue is developed or is gained in 1227, and by 1290 it has included most of now modern China into the Middle East or the Southeast Asia. It is rushing into Russia. So based on this question right here, based on the image provided, give one example of how the Mongolian Empire expanded so rapidly. Two easy choices here. You can talk about the use of horseback riding, or you can talk about the short bow. Now, other ways that the Mongols established their dominance in warfare, all right? So the first thing that they did is not even warfare at all. Rather, as the Mongols approached a city or a town, etc., they would send delegates in and basically ask them to surrender. Now, they would go in and they would say, well, you surrender, we will come in, take over peacefully, we won't sell you into slavery, all we'll do is just take you out of power. You referring here to the aristocracy. Now, if the aristocracy refused, the Mongols came in, specifically killed off all of the aristocracy, but They kept the skilled workers alive because they understood that skilled workers contribute to the economy and they are useful and they are valuable. And that's why they kept them alive. Now, as they came in and they entered into cities or they were confronted with another development, walls, here we see right here in this image, they developed siege weapons like the portable tower like you see here, and then not pictured are catapults. And that's how they ended up conquering many cities who didn't surrender. Now, as a result of taking over these large areas, especially areas that were connected to the Silk Road, the Mongols established what's referred to as Pax Mongolica. This refers to the way that Eurasia was ruled between the 13th and 14th century, so 1200 to 1300s. And some examples of what this period is defined by are, one, religious tolerance. The Mongols were tolerant of various religions. Oftentimes, they incorporated new religions into their own beliefs, so we're adding religious tolerance and religious syncretism to the mix as well. Oftentimes, Mongolian soldiers are safeguarding the Silk Roads against thieves and bandits, so it promotes the use of the Silk Road even more. And if the Mongols control a lot of area in the Silk Road, they can tax the Silk Road, or they can tax the exchanges that happen on the Silk Road. And if more people are using the Silk Road, that means they can collect more taxes. Now, eventually, though, we see that the Mongol Empire breaks up after the death of Genghis Khan. And it's broken up into various segments. The first segment is known as the Batu. They use the Golden Horde to expand westward and conquer parts of modern-day Russia. So here in this top image, you can see with the use of the Golden Horde. So this included the capital city of Kiev, and the rule was done from afar, and they just simply relied on a tribute. We're going to see that this kind of lax kind of rule ends up being the inevitable downfall of the Golden Horde in the Batu kingdom. Now, Hulegu took control of the southwest and led conquests into the Abbasid Caliphate here in this general area of Baghdad. He was eventually stopped by the Mamluks, who are located here in Egypt. And then, oh, by the way, we still have the Crusades that are happening between Europe and the Middle East. So Christians and Muslims fighting one another. We're still in this period. Next, we have the Yuan Dynasty. They defeat the Song Dynasty in 1260 and establish the Yuan Dynasty, and this ushers in a period of tolerance toward diverse religions, as well as the Chinese in general. But one key thing here is that the Yuan Dynasty was pretty big, but it was unable to capture various areas like Korea, Japan, and then further south. And what this shows, especially to the Chinese, is that the Mongols, which are kind of an offshoot of this Yuan dynasty, they can be stopped and they can be prevented. Now, looking at the decline, because eventually the Mongol Empire, as it declines and is broken into 4 parts, those parts eventually lose control as well. So in the West, the Golden Horde, because they're kind of ruling from afar, it allows these Russian kingdoms to amass a lot of resources, and they use those resources to create an army that then expels the Golden Horde out of that area. In Central Asia, there's a conquest by Tamerlane, and then in the South, talking here about China, despite them promoting religious toleration, as well as eliminating the civil service exam that alienates these Chinese scholar gentry, they couldn't conquer other areas and show that they had a weakness. And as a result of this, we have a group called the Buddhist White Lotus Society who overthrows the Yuan dynasty in favor of the Ming dynasty. And then the Ming dynasty reinstitutes all of these traditional and classical Chinese ideologies. All right, and that brings us to the end of 2.2. Again, I think this is one of the most important sections from the AMSCO textbook, the Mongols. I think this is one of those things where if you can understand the rise, the technologies that they use, the governing styles that they had as a way to expand their kingdom and control their kingdom, that's going to be one of your tickets to perhaps an SAQ, an LEQ, or a DBQ. As always, thanks for watching. This is AP World History in 516. If you haven't subscribed, make sure that you subscribe. And if you like the video, go ahead and like it. Thanks, guys.